Stories of my childhood. I love stories. All children love stories. All children are kind of in a hypnotic state. Before the age of 7, we are in theta state, and we live in a world that is so different than we are now as adults. So when I was a child, of course, like all children, I loved stories. I loved fantasy. I loved television. And television shaped how I ate. In previous generations, say the 1940s, there was no widely available television. You ate what your grandparents told you to eat. And then in the U.S., that changed. In the 1950s, we had celebrities pushing breakfast cereal. We had Vivian Vance from I Love Lucy on public television taking the skin off the chicken in the 1970s. And I remember watching that with my mother, and my mother saying, "Oh my gosh, your grandparents, they don't understand how important cholesterol is. They need to take the skin off the chicken." And so much of my programming around food was flawed. It was based on lies and corporate interest in disguise. It wasn't based on actual health. And that's really disappointing. It's like the heroes of my childhood have become, in some ways, the villains. I'll always love Andy Griffith's show, but Andy Griffith shaped my love of alphabets. Who doesn't love alphabets? Who doesn't love Andy Griffith? How could eggs, compete with alphabets? It's candy. It's candy. So my profession as physicians also somewhat became strangers with candy. We're pushing people on this high carb, low fat lifestyle that no other people have ever done. And we think as physicians we were doing good. And my good intentions were stolen. I really thought I was supposed to be helping people. But now they're back to whole milk for children. When I was a young mom, I was adamant about giving my kids skim milk. And my mother fed me Tang as a child, chemical sugar water. I could have been an astronaut. And my brother and sister got apple juice. We were food washed by these stories that were selling things. And again, that's why old is gold. It's not a fair fight. One of my clients said to me, "I just want it to be a fair fight." Well, it's not a fair fight. We were indoctrinated as children to believe lots of things that now are making us less healthy than our ancestors. We're doing gastric bypasses on 10-year-old children now. I mean, something is really sick and messed up in how we eat. And I feel like we're just so rootless because I feel more rooted now when I go through old family photos, when I go through old cookbooks. I look at traditions which haven't been ruined by the food pyramid, and there is hope. It just didn't lay where I thought it lay. And again, I was so indoctrinated with the low cholesterol, eat 6 tiny meals a day, low fat. Something else hits me as a physician with over 30 years experience. Sometimes I would see this. I would see a 90-year-old come into the clinic for some acute problem, or they were in the hospital because they fell or something, and they'd have sky-high cholesterol. They never went to a doctor, and they were so much more healthy than the people with normal cholesterols that were taking care of them, supposedly taking statins and supposedly should be healthier than the 90-year-old. And I just saw a lovely client the other day in her mid-40s on oxygen with so much weight and other problems. And she was saying, "My grandmother is 96, still alive, and she never went to the doctor, and she's healthy." Well, I am a doctor. I meant well, but my good intentions were stolen. And now I am eating more like my great-grandparents, my grandmother. And I think the answer lay in How did people used to eat? People used to eat higher fat, less frequently, and the food was real. They didn't have DoorDash. They didn't have the capacity to snack at night. They also weren't told, have a snack, have a snack. I was taught that in school. I have a older family friend here who was saying, how come everyone's snacking? How come they're snacking? I said, do you realize we were taught to snack in school? The National Education Association in the mid-70s promoted the food pyramid to my generation. I'm 57 now. And it was the first time the government, came in and told us how to eat. And sadly, it wasn't based on reality. Just because doctors invented antibiotics didn't mean they knew how to eat. And hey, antibiotics save lives. That's great. But our great-grandparents' traditions also saved lives. Our great-grandparents' traditions were really science. That science was, if these kids didn't live, if they ate in a screwed up way, they died. So our great-grandparents over, thousands of generations honed these eating patterns and these traditions to the land where they grew up and where the food came from. So to just throw that all out and say, hey, let's eat like a food pyramid, let's eat low fat, and it's been a terrible mistake. So again, be easy on yourself. You were a child when you learned all these things, but we can reprogram ourselves. You are a cactus living in a rainforest, Pradeep Jamnata says. And again, the cactus there's nothing wrong with the cactus, it's just in the wrong environment. If my ancestors, looked great as they aged, and here I'm 57, they told me, oh, it's all genetic, that's why you're getting diabetes, it's all genetic. But they didn't get diabetes in their 50s. They looked so much better, and they had much less education than I did. But again, I didn't get an education. I got an indoctrination around food. So join me, like, comment, subscribe. What celebrities influenced how you eat, and what children's programs, and we all had Saturday morning cartoons. Of course we love those things. We were children, but we're adults now, and we deserve good health, and we can step out of the stories that shaped our childhood. And like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next video.